paradise beach, a dream vacation. What could go wrong? Everything. Especially when you find out that every minute you age 1 year. An Anamika resort van travels through the jungle with the Kappa family, Guy, Priska, and their children, Trent and Maddox. And in the middle of that paradise, like an oasis, they arrive at the luxury resort, where the manager personally greets them, surrounded by staff, offering them welcome cocktails upon arrival. Meanwhile, the kids run over to a table with drinks and sweet treats prepared for them. There they meet another boy around Trent's age named Idlib, who says he is the manager's nephew and spends his time collecting seashells. Trent then runs around the beach with Idlib, and they go around asking people on the beach for their names and professions, like the Mitchells, Greg, a policeman, and Melanie, a dancer. They then play the truth game, telling Idlib that he has no friends. And when Trent says he's his friend, Idlib says he'll be leaving, telling Trent they can stay friends on FaceTime, study together, and be neighbors. Meanwhile, Priska and Guy argue, with her reminding him they agreed on one last vacation for their kids before telling them about the divorce, even though she was diagnosed with a terminal illness, saying it shouldn't matter. The children listen to them arguing from the living room. Trent receives a coded letter from Idlib, inviting him to an ice cream eating contest the next day. Meanwhile, a young couple enjoys the solitude of a paradise beach, with her undressing to go for a skinny dip. At the hotel, a woman named Crystal, who is on vacation with her husband Charles, who has also brought along his mother and their daughter Kara, orders a specific drink called a calcium bomb because she has a mineral deficiency. Later on, while the Kappas are having breakfast, the resort manager tells them about a secluded private beach by the island's nature reserve, which is completely surrounded by jagged rocks with unique minerals, a natural anomaly he only recommends to a select few guests. Meanwhile, a woman, Patricia, has an epileptic seizure and is treated by Charles and her husband Harren, who mentions he's a nurse. On the minibus taking them to the beach are Charles, his mother, Crystal, and Kara. They enter the nature reserve and are dropped off at a canyon entrance to reach the beach, given large food baskets, and told the kids need to eat a lot. They are also informed that he will return at 5 in the evening to pick them up. They indeed arrive at a stunningly beautiful paradise beach that is impossible for anyone else to access, as it is surrounded by mountains. There, Maddox notices another man on the beach whom she identifies as mid-sized Sedan, a famous rapper. Trent and Maddox play on the beach with the doctor's daughter Kara, discovering dozens of half-buried, rusty hotel toys by the mountain. They then play hide and seek, and while hiding in the water, Trent stumbles upon the body of the woman who was with Sedan earlier. Guy and Charles run to pull her out as Sedan approaches, saying she was with him and went swimming alone, though he refuses to say more, and they find they have no cell service. Guy tells Sedan he's an actuary who calculates insurance policies based on risk profiles, while Sedan insists he did nothing, liked the girl, and his nose starts bleeding for no reason. Meanwhile, Agnes, Charles's mother, says her chest feels strange, and Trent tells his mother his swimsuit is hurting him. Then Patricia and Harren finally arrive, and Guy urgently explains that they must catch the hotel staff before they leave, but Harren says they are already gone. He offers to go back and call for help from where they were first dropped off, but he suddenly gets dizzy and faints right there on the beach. Suddenly Agnes, who seemed fine, stops breathing. Her son tries unsuccessfully to revive her, and Charles thinks she had a heart attack from the shock of seeing the dead woman. Trent asks Jaren and Patricia about their professions. They tell him he's a nurse and she's a psychologist, asking him his age, and they estimate he's 10, so when he says he's 6, they think he's joking. And when Priska arrives, she doesn't recognize them, as they are much older than just a few minutes before. Guy arrives to tell them they must return to the hotel and is also surprised to see them. Sedan tries to flee, and thinking he killed the girl, Charles runs after him into the mountains, though the pressure forces them back to the beach. They see that everyone who tries to leave faints, though Guy doesn't believe them and says he's leaving with his kids and wife, who says they must go to the hospital. They propose finding an exit in pairs in case someone faints, though whenever they try they get dizzy and end up unconscious on the beach. Priska thinks something they ate infected the children, thinking it's something they could have eaten, as Kara also grew. But Charles seems out of it, and instead of checking the kids, he goes to Sedan and slashes his face with a knife, though he later says he's sorry, he thought he'd be attacked. Sedan groans in pain, but when he pulls his hand away from the wound, he sees a scar that is already closed and healed. Patricia thinks it might be a case of group psychosis. They see that meanwhile, the dog also died, and consider someone swimming out, though they estimate it's 100 pool lengths and against the current. The psychologist gathers them and asks them to stand in a circle. She asks the doctor and his wife why they're there, and Crystal says they're going through a tough time, as Charles is a stressed doctor who needs rest. Priska is still worried about her kids, but she also starts feeling ill and having trouble breathing, and they say she has a tumor and she suddenly faints. Charles says he can remove it, but as he prepares to do so, he seems odd, as instead of focusing on the surgery, he starts talking about a movie, trying to remember its title. He indeed opens her stomach, but the cut closes immediately and a scar appears, so he makes the incision again, and everyone pulls the flesh apart with their hands, seeing it closing around their fingers, though they manage to remove the tumor, which is now the size of a melon, and once removed, the wound closes instantly. When she wakes up, Priska thinks it was just a fainting spell, but they tell her they removed the tumor that was going to kill her, and she actually feels much better. Sedan approaches his companion and removes the towel to look at her and is terrified and alerts the others, who can see she is just a skeleton. They observe that she decomposed in just 3 hours, which usually takes 7 years, suggesting that something is happening with time on that beach. Priska notices that Guy has wrinkles. Meanwhile, Trent and Kara lie down together and discuss their changes. Priska deduces that half an hour on the beach equals a year in their lives, so in one day they will age nearly 50 years. They then look for Trent and Kara, who won't stop eating, and as they approach the youngsters, everyone sees Kara's belly growing. The birth will be very soon, but the baby dies after being placed on the towel for just 1 minute of neglect. Trent has an anxiety attack, not understanding anything, and Crystal blames her husband for not protecting them, though he acts as if it doesn't concern him and smiles, and suddenly strikes the ground angrily with his knife, accusing Jaren of spying on him in his neighborhood, though Jaren says he doesn't even know where his neighborhood is. When he tells his wife to put on makeup, she cries, and tells Maddox that when she was her age, she fell in love with a man, Giuseppe, but he wasn't very handsome, and she left him because he had nothing to offer, but now she's thinking about him a lot. Suddenly, Patricia screams in horror as she sees Charles stab Sedan, ending his life. After he walks away, the others manage to take the knife from him as he seems out of it. Jaren decides to try swimming out, fearing his wife will have a seizure without medicine, saying it's lucky it hasn't happened the whole time they've been there, while others think about climbing the rock. Maddox asks her mother if she was planning to leave her father. She says yes, but didn't want him to suffer, admitting that her father didn't know. Maddox goes for a swim while crying, when she suddenly comes across Jaren's body, who failed in his goal, concluding he must have fainted while swimming. Kara feels absolutely devastated, believing they will never be able to get out and won't have a prom or graduation. With her child's remains in her arms, they try to bury him, suddenly seeing Kara try to climb the rocks, but when she gets high up, she suddenly and unexpectedly falls asleep and falls to her death. Suddenly, Patricia says she'll swim away with some floats, as she needs to see her sister she fought with long ago, which now seems like an absurd fight, but she suddenly collapses and starts convulsing until she dies. Meanwhile, Guy starts to notice his vision is failing while Priska is losing her hearing. Crystal finds a mirror and sees her deterioration due to the passage of time and lack of calcium, and she doesn't want anyone to look at her. Guy tells Priska that one day he saw her text messages and saw that he said romantic things. She says she's sorry, telling him she doesn't know who she would have liked for herself, but not that man, as he's not serious and is pretentious, and she deserves someone better, and that he should have said something when he saw him. But he's a coward, telling him it's her fault, and his anger should be with her, saying she doesn't want to be anywhere else but with him. The kids search through the half-buried objects, finding a notebook where a writer realized he wouldn't get out and was trying to figure out what was happening. It indicates that the magnetism from the beach stones causes cells to age at an accelerated rate. Trent notices a camera at the top of the hill recording them and wonders why they're doing it. Guy sees someone approaching but can't make them out and tries to warn Priska, though she doesn't hear him. He realizes too late it's Charles, who threatens him, saying he'll tell what he did to the tattooed man, though he says he did it because he was going to rob his house, and tries to finish him off. When Priska realizes he's already attacking them and stabs her with his knife, she flees to protect her children, while Guy tries to defend himself and get rid of the madman. Priska asks her children to hide in a place where they can't be found. The children hide among the rocks, where they realize someone else is there. Crystal, also crazed and not wanting to be seen, tries to throw a rock at them, but it falls on her, leaving her bones completely disjointed, later dying from the pressure compressed by time. Meanwhile, Guy defends himself by throwing sand in Charles's eyes. Priska arrives and cuts Charles with a rusty knife, and with that poison in his body, he ends up deteriorating at full speed until he dies. The Kappas stay together in front of a bonfire while the parents continue to age. Shortly after, Guy dies, followed by Priska soon after. When dawn breaks, the two siblings see they have about 13 hours of life left and wonder if they should keep trying to get out. Trent suggests building a sandcastle and remembers that Idlib sent him a message he couldn't decode, with Maddox suggesting he do it now. They find it in their mother's bag, seeing that the encrypted message said his uncle didn't like coral, thinking it could protect them from the rock's effect and be their metal tube. They head into the sea and dive toward the coral, entering a tunnel formed by it. Trent sees his sister got caught on some, so he must help her tear off her clothes. From above, Theo, the man recording everything on the beach who drove them in the bus, sees them disappear, so he reports their death by phone, not understanding why they headed for the coral. But they were there for a minute and a half, and the only person who survived a year before drowned. So he considers the investigation closed and the last members of Trial 73 dead, so he packs everything up to return to base. They are expected in the huge room of a research laboratory, with numerous scientists studying diseases like ischemic heart disease, diabetes mellitus, tuberculosis, and so on. And they also create medicines. They mention that they cleaned the rooms and wiped the computers of the last clients, with the hotel manager asking for a moment of silence for the members of Trial 73. And he notes that thanks to that beach, they were able to save hundreds of thousands of lives with new medications, and before they're done, it will be millions. They congratulate themselves that Warren and Warren could find that beach and be able to test medicines in a single day instead of an entire lifetime, and they await new guests. Niels talks to his grandson and asks him not to play with anyone except the children, he points out. A man approaches one of the hotel's guests, Greg Mitchell, the police officer, and hands him a notebook. A married couple is greeted by the manager and staff and offered a cocktail, just like the others, which someone knocks away before they drink, with the man telling them not to accept anything because they wanted to kill them. He then introduces himself as Trent Kappa, while his companion says that she is Maddox Kappa. Meanwhile, the police officer makes a phone inquiry using the data from the notebook about the missing persons. Idlib arrives, and Trent shows him the letter he gave him, which is the reason they managed to survive. They remember how when Maddox got stuck in the coral, he managed to break it and reach a hole where they could stick their heads out to breathe, thus getting enough air to survive and reach the surface. A helicopter takes the two siblings with the police, who tell them that they arrested everyone and served the subpoenas at Warren and Warren. They're taken to the airport where their aunt is waiting for them, whom he already called, telling her with his 50-year-old voice that he's her 6-year-old nephew. In the movie Old, Mr. Night Shyamalan did not simply intend to tell a suspenseful story. He wanted to ask a much deeper and more profound question: what would you do if you could see your entire life pass by in a single day? The film is born from the most human fear of all: watching the people we love grow old. The director said the idea came to him while looking at his daughters and realizing how quickly they were growing up. Time, when you live it with others, slips away without you even noticing. That is exactly why the beach isn't just a strange setting. It's a powerful metaphor for the passage of real time, a place where everything happens so fast that you simply can't plan, control, or stop anything at all, just like in our own lives. The movie Old reminds us that we don't own time. We can only decide how we choose to use it. It shows us how we often only truly value what's important when it's already far too late: our family, our love, and the simple, precious moments. Shyamalan's powerful message is crystal clear and brutal. Don't waste the now, because all you ever really have is this moment.